Hello there! It's a short video about do's and don'ts when choosing proper protective gloves for lightsaber dueling. I will show here some examples, but it is not a sponsored video and I don't want it to be restricted or banned, so I'm not giving any links, sorry. Anyway, most of links expire very fast, so please do smart move, try to search by picture on AliExpress, Amazon, eBay, Temu, Allegra or any other large shopping platform. There can be a bunch of variants. In this video I'm just outlining essential things to keep in mind while choosing your own variant. First of all, the context. We fight using lightsaber models, typically consisting of baselit or neopixel blade and metal hilt with electronic chassis inside. The baselit blade is an empty PVC tube of a 2 or 3 mm wall thickness. 3 mm will be obviously heavier, but it allows you to fight at full strength, not to stop or slow down your attack. Of course, it requires additional protective equipment besides gloves. 2 mm blade is much lighter and more safe, that's why it's more common for tournament rule sets of different schools. Neopixel blade is the heaviest and could weigh at least like 3 mm baselit or even more. And even if you are practicing choreography, improvisation, fancy dueling or just pair exercise on your regular training day, fingers will be your first injury. There are some models with katana-style tsuba on the hilt for heavy dueling, and some models with European-style longsword cross guard, usually not rated for heavy dueling. But even in martial arts school using those weapons with guards, anyway, any fencer will have injured fingers, it's inevitable. So it's worth investing in hand protection from the very first day. Besides that, unfortunately, lightsaber hilts are designed by sci-fi and industrial designers and very rarely by martial arts weapon history experts. So in most cases, shape, diameter, surface and grip place are so bad for actual dueling. It is a challenge to find something relatively ergonomic. And anyway, it will be made primarily from metal and will not be covered with any kind of wrapping to improve grip like medieval swords. So you need gloves to at least have a reliable grip on the metal hilt when your hand begins to sweat. If you only do a lightsaber dance or free flow where you just spin a lightsaber and do not fight, you can pick any so-called tactical basic glove from eco leather or bonded leather. That means it's made from leftovers of leather, grinded and formed up as a leather sheet and then used as a regular leather. Eventually, even mid-quality gloves from that material are pretty durable and grip is excellent even in completely wet gloves. Main point, I do not recommend picking something that have much silicone on the palm, no more than that. Unexpectedly, it becomes sleepy on the wet metal surfaces. Those types of gloves usually have perfect ergonomic grip and you feel your lightsaber almost like without any glove. There can be variants with additional protection on knuckles, but honestly it doesn't do much. The main finger parts that got hit during the fight are thumb interphalangeal joint and index and middle finger proximal interphalangeal joint. So actually you can completely ignore that mid solution, and if you need more protection, move directly to heavy protected gloves. For cosplay you might need a natural leather variant without any markings, but from my experience at least palm from seared leather or bonded leather would be better than natural glossy leather. Moving on to more heavy protected gloves, I'd say anyway they are moderately protected. As I say, the general consideration is to protect most exposed joints, so make sure those 3 fingers have some protection. Not every cheap tactical glove would work. The index finger is typically used to pull the trigger, so it often doesn't have any protection. Tactical gloves that would work is something like that. Relatively thick protection of all fingers. I would only wish it had a bigger width on each finger. Very good ergonomic if you pick proper size. Fingers could be bent with no force. It is also quite important during the fight to have good enough mobility so you can perform all techniques. Protection of the back is brilliant, but actually if an opponent doesn't hit it intentionally, it is not so critically needed. By the way, they could be in different colors and sold as work gloves, but not a single thing in construction is different. Unfortunately, not so many tactical gloves have decent finger protection. That's how we got to the option of work heavy-duty gloves. For example, again, they might come in different colors and branded differently, but the form of rubber on fingers is the same. The protection on the back of the palm is a bit weaker, but that's okay. Rubber on fingers looks wider, but if to compare, it is not much wider, but significantly more thin. Overall, that thickness is quite enough for lightsaber dueling, so I would evaluate that option as dueling grade. Finger joints are more or less protected and overall quality is nice. Another working gloves I have here have the best protection of fingers among other variants, meaning it's not perfect. You're gonna feel the heat anyway, but considering we have rounded blades, it will be relatively tolerable. Pressure will be distributed to more significant area. And also fingernails are slightly protected, which is good. Fewer occasions when you have blue nails, but the main disadvantage of those gloves, thick padding on the palm. For sure, their purpose to protect from punctures, from the sharp metal, construction nails, screws, and so on and so forth. It wouldn't work well in fencing because it increases the diameter of the grip. Instead of 30 mm hilt, you literally hold 40 mm or even more, which is uncomfortable and weakens the grip. By the way, previous also adds some thickness to the grip, and those also have some paddings, but much smaller. If I keep those, I tend to remove paddings completely. Because of the paddings, you might need additional force to bend your fingers. It isn't very comfortable, and during a long fight, especially if your opponent has a heavy hit, your palm muscles will be exhausted very fast. And considering you need constant additional force to bend your fingers, you lose the strength of your grip very fast. Much better if your gloves already have that ergonomic, natural, relaxed, bended fingers. So on the contrary, you need that additional force to straighten your finger. So despite those gloves have very good protection, because of the padding they can be used in any fencing. One more type of protective gloves, by the way, you might find similar construction gloves called tactical, but make sure they have protection on index finger. Protection of fingers is not so good as in previous, but good enough. I can't test thickness of it in full because I messed up with the size, but I would say that it is somewhere on the same level as yellow. The only thing I have concern about is silicone padding. As I said, it could be slippery in metal when it gets wet. And again, it has some thickness. And never buy work gloves made of knitted fabric. That knitted fabric will be deep in your skin after a strong heat on your finger. It only increases the damage after the heat. And they tend to make blisters. So nothing good of those cheap one-time use gloves. They can be confused with cut-resistant Kevlar gloves. Mostly those have rubber paddings to increase protection, but in lightsaber dueling we don't need cut resistance. Even in steel sword fencing, the most damage comes from smashing fingers, not cutting. And don't buy anything more expensive than 10-15 bucks. They literally have the same level of protection and quality. It couldn't be next level better than I already showed. Next level is professional HEMA gloves with plastic fingers. Everything below that with rubber finger protection actually is the same. Don't overpay for brand, it doesn't matter, they will last the same time as no-name cheap ones. Just keep in mind what do you need to protect, and I hope now you have a more clear understanding of how to pick basic protective gloves among that crazy number of variants on shopping platforms. Just to summarize, if you ask me, I would pick those from tactical if I only need to spin lightsaber, and also those from work gloves if I need some relatively good protection for moderate dueling. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, and keep in touch for new videos.